Welcome into the Verdin Verdict Sports Show. I'm your host, Jacob Verdin. We're back in the studio. We've been on the run, we've been on the road, but we're bringing it back. We're getting that consistency in. But welcome in, 34 days away from LSU versus USC, by the way. I wanted to point that out as well. I got another little tidbit of information for you guys as well. One more little nugget of confidence for LSU fans. Brian Kelly right now is in a 7-year streak of double-digit wins. That's right, Brian Kelly. Sure, he's had 2 seasons at LSU. Sure, both of those 2 seasons had double-digit wins, but dialing it back to Notre Dame, he had 5 straight years to end off that tenure. So I think LSU's in a pretty good spot. Not only do you get to play a USC team who is not really anything other than middle of the pack. You kind of get a little easier game comparatively to what it could be, comparatively to other teams' openers, and I feel like this could be a pretty good situation for the Tigers. But I've got a little LSU recruiting update for you. We got our fall camp wish list because it's right around the corner. We'll be giving you that practice footage once again. And then at the end of the stream, we're going to do a little Know Your Enemy segment. We're going to break down USC, their current situation, and just what to expect in 34 days. Without further ado, this LSU recruiting update. We talked about it on Wednesday, the Bayou Splash visit. You had everybody come in. You had all your big names, all your blue chips, all your top priorities, if you will. And they did get a commitment. O-line Jalon Chapman in the 2026 class went ahead and verbally committed. And look, Brad Davis is doing work because Brad Davis always finds a way to just continuously keep adding, keep going. When you're in a situation where you're going to lose more than likely 2 of your biggest offensive linemen over the last 3 years in Will and Emery, hey, I'm going to take any addition to this room that we can. Another addition LSU's hoping to somehow get is Khalil Lockett. Now, this one might be a little bit tougher, but you got Damian Shanklin, you got Bryce Underwood, Harlan Berry. Everyone's making their case. They're pitching to him on social media. They're with him at the Bayou visit. I think that this situation is going to be one we're going to have to keep monitoring. It could be very imminent of a Decoria Moore where it's like, does he want to get developed or does he want to get a bag? And look, either way you go, credit to the kid. He's in a good situation. 5-star offensive tackle Jackson Cantwell, though, was in attendance as well. He gives a positive report, and he kind of just, not saying LSU knocked the socks off a little bit, but Brad Davis knows how to do a thing or two in the recruiting world. Then you also had 5-star D lineman Jakeem Stewart in for the visit as well. So all in all, my report was this is exactly what LSU needs to do in the recruiting world. Bring everyone together, show them the experience, show them the environment, show them the team chemistry, the way that you want these guys to bond and get on the same page. Sure, everybody, every school gets a lot of recruits in for a big visit, but I don't really think everyone does it in this type of way. Coach Kelly and his success in recruiting here, especially in the SEC, I feel like it's speaking volumes on the process that they have, and then the coaching staff that they have around them. It's just going to keep making it easier and easier and easier. Drop your comments on how you feel about LSU's recruiting situation and where you think this 2025 class will inevitably end up, and maybe even the 2026 class. We might get into those way too early predictions. But segue into the fall camp wish list. Like I said, fall camp right around the corner. LSU is going to start their preseason practices on Wednesday. It's in 2 days. But we will not be having access to it on Wednesday. We will be having access in a few weeks. And from that, this is what you can expect. I want to see some DB action. That's the number one thing on the top of my wish list. I want to see live reps. I want to see what the personnel is. Now, of course, is it going to be the same in 34 days? More than likely, no. They're fine-tuning some things. They're finding out who's the guys you can trust, this, that, and the third. You're getting everyone comfortable in their scheme, but I just really want to get that pulse check. I want to see where LSU's defense is. We can only talk about it for so long. We can only hypothesize for so long. I want to see these DBs in a tough spot. I want to see them guarding a Kyron Lacey, a Chris Hilton, trying to, prevent Garrett Nussmeier from slinging the rock all over the place. And speaking of Garrett Nussmeier, phenomenal quarterback, going to have a phenomenal year. I want to know who the QB2 is. Is it Ricky Collins? I feel like it's been pretty evident that that's the direction LSU is going to go in. And then, not to mention, the final Freak of the Week award for the summer football workouts LSU football has been given was given to Ricky Collins. So he's obviously doing the right things. He's obviously getting noticed, and he's getting rewarded. But I want to make sure. I want to know that this is the guy that's in that backup role because things happen in college football, and I just want to kind of get that feel for who could potentially be coming in, whether it be in garbage time or whether it be in the event that somebody has to step up. I feel like that's a pretty big pivotal point here. How is the QB2s gelling? How do they look? Can they hit the ground running? Of course, Ricky's a younger guy, but could you trust him in this situation? Will you lean towards A.J. Swan? What's going to happen? That's the second thing that I'm going to be looking for fall camp. Third, running back depth. Because we're taking it for granted that it's just going to be led by Josh Williams and John Emery. Now, it's pretty indicative that it'll start like that, but when does Caleb Jackson get his shine? When does Caleb Jackson get, involved as almost a starter in this room? Just because you kind of get a little bit of a different style from each back. I could see each back, not necessarily a triple split across all the carries, but I could see Caleb Jackson getting out 5 to 6, maybe even damn near 10 carries in some situations, just because he's that talented. Yeah, he's young. Yeah, he's got people ahead of him, but there's got to be a point in this season where Caleb Jackson just gets the rock and they let him run wild. Frank Wilson knows what kind of talent he has in him, and it's also one of those situations where it's like you got to start kind of priming him. You don't want to just keep him on the side, keep him, hidden and tucked away when you could have an explosive weapon to utilize all season long. Now, Josh Williams and John Emery, we've said time and time again, probably the most experienced backs in college football. They've been here for 5 years. John Emery is recovering from an ACL injury, so that might be, a little bit of a slower recovery than most would expect. But in Josh Williams' situation, I feel like, he's in a big prove yourself year. He's in a situation where NFL scouts and NFL teams in general are watching him, and he's performed well over the last 2 years. I would imagine that, he's going to get drafted and he's going to hear his name called on Sundays. But I feel like this situation is going to be really, really interesting to watch, because is Josh going to be your mainstay back all season, or is Caleb going to come in and eventually take that RB1 role? I feel like in this spot, like I said, you got two different types of backs. I wouldn't mind watching a split carry backfield. I wouldn't mind, having potentially two starter caliber running backs where you don't just have to, name your guy. You can just feed the hot hand. And that's kind of been the theme of LSU's running back room and just their depth in general, is they're going to go to who's hot. They're going to change it around. It's not the same guy all the time, and I would really expect that. So I want to see the depth chart for that running back room. Does Caleb have a clear path to the top? Is it going to be one of those situations where you just feel it out as the year goes? Something that I'm going to want to keep tabs on. We got Blanche in the chat saying nobody's talking about Colin Hurley. I wonder if he'll catch Collins as the year goes on. Yeah, Colin Hurley's very talented. The reason why, I really wouldn't talk about him in that QB2 spot is because this never is just simply not going to happen at this point. But going forward, very talented kid. He's 17 years old. And that's another thing nobody talks about. This is not your average college freshman. This is a very young guy who's in a situation that not many people could have been able to handle or could have been able to even get in general. So, of course, it speaks volumes of the talent that he has. We got DJS in the chat. I love Horns Down getting all love. BK to put SEC on notice this year. Go Tigers. Yeah, I feel like this is potentially the season where LSU can make some noise. It can go like this, or it can go like this. It's either or. It could be a 10 to 11 win season. You punch your ticket to the college football playoff and everything happens. Or it could be a year where you might kind of drop back. You might not get that double-digit win, and then everyone's going to be scratching their heads. And quite frankly, you're going to see some disgruntled people. It's unlikely. I think LSU is going to have that first reaction where they do get to the college football playoff. Do they win it? Who knows? It's way too early to tell. But just looking at this schedule and looking at the USC game in general, I feel like it's pretty indicative of a good start. It'll be a good litmus test for the Tigers. We'll go ahead and break down that USC game now, but real quick, I wanted to let y'all know our guys Happy Dad, they're available in Louisiana just in time for the summer. We've been plugging them. It's the best tasting hard seltzer in tea. It's low in sugar. It's gluten-free. No artificial flavors. You can get it at Walmart. You can get it at Rouse's. You can get it at Albertsons. Get it before it's gone. It's flying off the shelves. You got your teas. You got the purple with the Snoop Dogg collab with Death Row Records. You got your fruit punch. You got a variety pack you can grab. Go ahead and drive to Walmart, Rouse's, Albertsons. Try the Happy Dad. Tell them the Verdin Verdict sent you. 21 plus, though. Moving into this USC breakdown. Like I said, I feel like this is a really, really good situation for LSU to be in, because it's not a tough game. Yeah, it's a neutral site, but it ain't Florida State. Because for the last 2 years, you've played a team that's playoff caliber. You played a team that last year went undefeated, and a lot of people complained didn't get their shot. This is not that situation. If you look at the sports book odds, it's a 7.5 win total. That is the same win total. I know it's a different conference, but that's the same win total that the sports book give ULL, Louisiana Lafayette, Tulane, and a couple other teams where you're just like, okay, so this is where we're headed, in the sense where, like, you're not going down and playing a double-digit win projected team. You're not playing a team that's 100% projected to bite into the college football playoffs. And I know there's a lot of things that are up in the air, and a lot of people are nervous to see the DBs get out there. A lot of people are nervous to see the new offense get out there. Plus, USC and Lincoln Riley, offensively speaking, is nothing really to scoff at, I feel like. But let me kind of dive deep and just give you a little in-depth report on what I found from USC. During Lincoln's 2-year tenure, he's 19-8. Keep in mind his record coaching overall, 74-18. While he was at Oklahoma for 5 years, he only had 10 losses, 55-10 over 5 years. He's averaging 2 losses a year, but in 2 years, he's already almost had as many losses at USC. Now, that's not saying anything about Lincoln Riley. What it is saying is the spot that team is in. You know, he said it himself. They won 4 games when he arrived there, and he says, you know, he still doesn't think that they're very, very good yet. They're not in that spot that they want to be. They're still rebuilding the team. You know, he said it's going to be a 3 to 4 year process, and quite frankly, I just wonder. He's not setting everybody up for the expectation of losing, but it's just like he's dialing back the expectations a little bit. He's talking about a rebuild. He's talking about it might take a couple other years. He's letting everybody know, hey, we inherited a program that wasn't, you know, tip-top shape to start with. He even made mention that he had a lot of other ready-made places that he could have went, and he decided to go to USC, which, you know, kudos to him. I'm sure South California is a pretty cool spot to work. They're also going to be in their first year in the Big Ten. And the Big Ten is nothing to scoff at, whether it be Ohio State, whether it be Oregon, whether it be all of these big-name blue bloods that are going to give you a run for your money. They have the defending national champions in that conference. And you have been in a little bit of a skid over 2 years, and you don't have that Caleb Williams lean on that you used to. Plus, the quarterback battle is still currently ongoing. If you ask me, they're going to put Miller Moss out into that situation. He's the most experienced in terms of that scheme. He went to Big Ten Media Days, so I feel like that's got to be indicative of him having the lead. You wouldn't put somebody who wouldn't start in that role, I'd imagine. But I think USC is pretty much, they're not young, they're not inexperienced, they're not in a spot where it's just going to be hell in a handbasket and they're going to get 50 hung on them. But I don't think they're going to be uber competitive with an LSU team who has just had 2 double-digit win seasons, and quite frankly, the turnover of talent. Hey, you lose 3 players in the first round, and they're generational talents and all this, and we can just go around in a circle about it. But I really don't see a world where Garrett Nussmeier, you know, Chris Hilton, Kyron Lacey, these guys don't gel and bite into these roles very successfully. And the defensive side of things, at least, and this isn't easing everyone's nerves, but at least it's not a situation where this quarterback has been playing for years under the squad. He's going to be a newer guy, gelling into his scheme, not necessarily nervous, but it's not the biggest test of the season. And quite frankly, you know, if you're going to dial it back to playing against a guy like Jordan Travis for 2 years to start the opener, that's a lot scarier. A lot scarier. I mean, we definitely are in a spot where we're 14-point favorites or 20-point favorites. You know, I'm pretty sure it's a touchdown spread, if even at this point. And I might not even take that. But I do think that LSU gets out with a win. I do think LSU has a pretty good chance at starting 5-0. And I feel like if all of those things happen, it's going to be a pretty clear-cut path to the college football playoff. Our guy Blanche in the chat, USC makes me nervous. Lynn, the DC really makes me nervous. He's the real deal. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he came from UCLA. And that is probably one of the spots where I really would have more confidence, because I think that our offense and just the scheme that we have in general is going to continue to translate, believe it or not. And I might be, you know, I'm going to get ridiculed for saying this, but I really do think you can watch LSU average 30, 35 points a game. I was talking with the Honey Badger, Tyrann Mathieu, about a week or 2 ago, and he said the same thing. You know, Garrett Nussmeier is a very, very respectable quarterback, and I feel like he's proven himself a little bit. And especially, we keep talking about this narrative during SEC Media Day, is the fact that he has sat around and waited his time. There's nobody, quite frankly, in college football at this point who's been as committed as Garrett Nussmeier. He's been waiting over and over and over again. There's been a couple of times where he's got action on the field. There's been a couple of times where he thought he'd get the nod and be his job, and none of it discouraged him. None of it pushed him away from the situation. He's really the embodiment of what LSU's culture and their just overall idea is for having a leader. And I think that that's going to speak volumes, and the team's going to buy in around him with that. And it might not be a translation to a Heisman season for Nussmeier, but I think he can get pretty damn close. And I think that he can succeed, and I feel like in this situation, in week 1 with USC, if you see Garrett Nussmeier throw for 300 yards, he might be the country's favorite quarterback. And a lot of people overreact on week 1 things, and, even if LSU loses, it's not the end-all, be-all, because, hey, guys, they've lost the last 4 season openers, and the last 2 years they've won double-digit wins. So it's not going to be your Achilles heel that's going to ruin your entire year. This is just one of those moments where, like we keep saying, it's a pulse check. I do think LSU snaps that 4-year skid, and I do think that, they kind of turn some things on their head, and it could be a very, very good year for the Tigers. But going forward, we got a couple things up our sleeve. We're going to wrap up this stream here shortly. We got an LSU player. I'm always keeping it secret. I always want to keep y'all on the hook. I can't let everything out. But we got an LSU player pulling up. We're going to be doing a little college football 25. I'm going to put that up on the channel. We're going to do an interview with him as well, though, because I know not everybody likes the college football interviews, but guess what? They're damn fun, so I'm going to have to keep doing them. We're going to do a regular interview. We're going to do that as well. We'll probably have that up tonight or tomorrow. We're going to be going live again Wednesday at 11 a.m. We're going to go live Friday at 11 a.m. We're back on the grind. We're back at it. Football season right around the corner. 34 days until this USC game. We're aiming to be in Las Vegas to get you that exclusive coverage. And quite frankly, I feel like a W is right around the corner. Thanks to everybody who tuned in. Thank you, Blanche, for getting in the chat. You've been pretty consistent with that, bro. Shout out to you. It's a big help. And, everybody else that's watching, don't be afraid to get in the chat, talk about your opinions. We'll mention you on the stream. Get joining in the conversation. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button before y'all hop out of here. Remember, Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 11 a.m., we're back at it. This has been the Verdin Verdict. Thank y'all for watching. Y'all have a great day.